tonight we have the council present except for Councillor Glidewell, who is seeing if Guinness in Ireland is well drunk, warm, or cold. I don't think they have cold beer, do they? In Ireland? They didn't a long time ago. It was warm, or room temperature. Anyway, she's not here. Everyone else that needs to be apparently is. Our public safety people, plans and development, public works. Don't have a librarian here tonight, nor a interim financial officer, but everyone else is here. So, additions to the agenda, none. Declarations of ex parte contact, conflicts of interest, none. Presentations. Let's do these big ones right now, and then we'll get to notes from individuals. Stayton not just Stayton, everywhere, Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation. And that's something I guess I'm supposed to read, but a couple of ladies are here to share with us. What would you like me to read this first, or should we do it when you're done?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Allison Kelly, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Liberty House. And with me tonight is Julie Hilty from Family Building Blocks. And we're honored to be here again to commemorate the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. We have a short presentation for you. We can take questions, and then you have your proclamation. We also brought some handouts for you, and we have enough for members of the audience as well. There's a little bookmark with tips on the back. There is a brochure. There is a nice handout on 50 ways to help your family thrive, and a blue handout about keeping your children safe online, which we'll talk about. And so I would just like to thank your police chief for making this possible, making it possible for us to be here. He's an amazing partner. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Julie.
Sure. Thank you. So, as Allison mentioned, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and actually, if you go to the next slide, we, again, as a Marion County Child Abuse Prevention team, adopted for the 4th year in a row the slogan, "Everyone has a role in preventing child abuse. You are the first step." And so what that represents is that it's not just a police issue, it's not just a parenting issue, it's a community-wide issue. And a lot of times we feel it might be an uphill battle, but our community must remain vigilant in the prevention efforts that we focus on. Something that I want you guys to just be aware of is last Friday, about 125 community members and nonprofit agencies and the Sheriff's Department and the Marion County Commissioners gathered together down at the state capitol to kick off the awareness and prevention events for the month of April. And so there are now 10,010 ribbons, blue ribbons, hanging from the tree at the Capitol that represents the 10,010 victims of child abuse and neglect in the state of Oregon in 2014. This is a very sombering tree, but throughout the month, it is just a huge awareness piece. When anybody drives by it, the Statesman Journal did a write-up about it, and it's just a major awareness and reminder of what we all need to do to help prevent child abuse and neglect.
And so with that, in Marion County in 2014, and this is data that comes from the Oregon Department of Human Services, and so they're always a couple years behind in their data. So for 2014 is the most recent year we have data for. They had 813 confirmed victims in Marion County, and of those, 47 to 48% were 6 years old or younger. One of the things that we know is that about 95% of all abuse, the perpetrator is known to the victim, and so that is also kind of sobering. And there are many different types of abuse, as you know. The physical abuse is very serious sexual abuse, and the neglect is something that we really pay attention to as well. You know, there are families who just don't have what they need in order to properly care for their children, or maybe they never learned, and that's really where family building blocks comes in. It's so important, the role that they play. If a parent can't give their child the emotional support as well as the food and clothing and shelter that they need, it really can have some serious consequences. And if your chief, if you want to say anything about this, these are the numbers from Stayton over the last 4 years. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to this.
So for Stayton in 2015, we had investigated 33 cases of child abuse and filed 18 with the district attorney's office. That rose to the level of criminal activity, and which is a considerable reduction from last year in 2014 of 54. So we're very pleased with the reduction that we've seen so far.
And I think that really speaks highly of your community. I can tell you at Liberty House, we are the agency that we provide assessment, medical checkups, and interviews and family support for children. And our calls for service seem to be going up steadily, and so we're just trying to bring more resources to the table. And one thing that I wanted to just mention briefly tonight is we've got some really good research that has helped us understand over the last few years the effect that child abuse can have on a child. This study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, identified 10 adverse or harmful experiences that children can have, and you see them listed there on the left. And typically a child will have maybe 1 or 2 of those adverse experiences in their life, but when children have 4 or more of any of those abusive experiences, the researchers now know, and this was a huge study, over 17,000 participants, funded partly by Kaiser Health Foundation, Kaiser Permanente, that it actually increases the risk of long-term physical disease and disability as well as emotional. And so now we know that early childhood and childhood abusive experiences can actually lead to cancer, heart disease, diabetes, COPD, and other issues, in addition to things that we might expect, like substance abuse and that kind of thing. And we do know that children, if they come from an abusive situation, they really experience a lot of fear, something that we call hypervigilance, where they're just kind of always feel like they're walking on eggshells. They will develop guilt and shame also if they're being targeted. So I think it's important just to keep in mind the harm and what that looks like.
I know that we're sharing statistics, but in a moment I'm going to share a real story here in the Santiam Canyon with you about one of our families that chose to say yes to breaking the cycle of abuse and neglect. First, I want to talk about how important parents are. As you all know, parents are the child's first and most important teacher. This means that parents have a very important role in preventing abuse and neglect. Family Building Blocks partners with parents that have young children ages 0 to 5. And we partner with them by providing services to parents who are overwhelmed and living in crisis. We know that parents know their children best. We also know that parents want to understand more about what their child is needing and feeling. But as parents, we often feel at loss in understanding our children. We also know parents want to feel more confident as a parent. That's why Family Building Blocks partners with parents to help parents understand their children's behavior and to read their child's cues. We support parents in helping them self-reflect on why they parent a certain way. What are they bringing into the situation that they may have picked up when they were children themselves? We support parents to gain the confidence they need to be more engaged in their child's life. I'm going to read to you right now what one of our families shared with us. They live out here in the canyon. Growing up, I was both abused and neglected. My parents were divorced and they used that against me. If my mom was angry at my dad, I was used as a tool to get back at him. As an adult, I now live in the canyon with my husband and our 2 children. I am working really hard to raise my children differently than the way I was raised. As a parent, I really didn't want to be like my parents. I've struggled with a post-traumatic stress disorder because of the trauma I experienced as a child. The biggest issue I had was confidence in myself. I didn't think I could do anything right. Thankfully, I was introduced to Family Building Blocks Home Visitor. For most of my life, I have had a hard time trusting anyone. My first thought about my home visitor that she was going to take my children away. However, she genuinely got to know me and gained my trust, and she never judged me. Through home visiting, I have overcome my depression, my anxiety, and have gained confidence as a parent. My home visitor listened and helped me figure out what kind of mom I wanted to be. She supported me in reaching my goals. When I needed assistance securing insurance to see a therapist, she stepped right in and helped me make all the right connections. She empowered me and focused on what I was doing right. I want you to know that the Family Building Block services they provide were truly life-changing for my family and for my relationship with my children. They gave me a gift that is truly priceless. This doesn't just stop with parents with young children. We're going to talk a little bit about this more, but parents with older children, I want to implore you to be available. Develop the kind of relationship with your child that allows them to come to you for help and support for themselves or their friends. To get involved and to get to know your child's friends and the homes where your children go. Monitor their activities, keep the computer in a family area where you can easily keep an eye on the use. Supervise internet and cell phone activities. The most important thing, honestly, is just to notice your child, to love on your child. The teen and preteen years are awkward and hard enough, and our children need to know that we see them and we know them.
So with that, you might have discovered that we're spelling an acronym. We're spelling out the word prevent. So I'm going to toggle back to what we do. What happens if you were to suspect that abuse is occurring, or if a child were actually to disclose? And that's what, there are tips on the back of that little bookmark that I handed out that give you ideas on what to do if a child were to disclose. This is the Marion County Child Abuse Reporting Hotline. So if you do feel that you're in a position where you need to report suspected abuse, we encourage you to call that hotline. We have excellent trained screeners. They work for the Department of Human Services, and their responsibility is then to take that report and to take action, and then we'll cross-report to law enforcement, to our law enforcement partners. And I think that we really want to emphasize that everybody plays a role. All of us have children in their lives in one way or another, and just being able to be open to exactly the kinds of things that Julie was saying, to really pay attention to them. On the Marion County Community Services Department website, there are some tip sheets for parents and volunteers and things like that. And also the importance of our school district involvement. So many of our schools have programs from the Hands and Words Were Not for Hurting. We made a presentation in front of the Marion County Board of Commissioners last week, and we all took the pledge with some student peer mentors. And I think that's just an important visual reminder. And the other thing that we want to stress is that volunteers are amazingly helpful. Both Julie's program and Liberty House, we all use volunteers to help play with children and in your therapeutic classrooms to help promote that attachment and bonding. So we love our volunteers. There are a lot of really positive ways to get engaged, and I would just encourage anybody listening to this presentation, if they're interested in volunteering, to call either Family Building Blocks or Liberty House. We would be happy to have you. And then the other thing that we really want to mention is to do as much as you can to become educated about the topic. It's not an easy topic, and I know this week's issue, I just picked it up, of Time Magazine, has some really important information that not everybody's going to want to read about, but the world has changed, and it is just different. So the more that we can be educated, the better resource we can be for our children and our grandchildren. And this is, I think, important. One thing that we really want to know is if there are any children or teens or preteens listening to this presentation, we want you to know that you have a resource. So you need to know there is somebody in your life that you can tell if you need to. The problem is that child abuse in many forms is criminal activity, and there's often not a witness, and so there isn't a level playing field. It's easy to be shamed into silence, and that's not what we want. So as Julie was saying earlier, parents, I think one of the big myths is that as your children get older, they aren't going to need you. I actually had, when our children were getting ready to go to middle school, the principal said that to a group of parents. Your kids aren't going to need you anymore. Stop volunteering in the school. You'll just get in the way. And my husband and I did, that just didn't sound right to us. So we did just the opposite. We kind of leaned in. And I was the super speller mom. But I would say, especially as your children get older, they need you, get involved in band, orchestra, cross country, football, whatever it is. And here's the point that we really want to make. The world has changed, and cyberspace is not safe for children. Julie hinted at this. Right now, the proliferation of adult material out there, it's all over the place, and there are little children, ages 6, 7, 8, 9, who are getting hold of it and actually seeing it and thinking that's what they're supposed to do and committing acts on smaller children who can't defend themselves. This world is a different world. So we encourage parents, if you have children who have a cell phone, first and foremost, like Julie was saying, talk to your own children about your values, your family values. Promote their individual self-esteem. And on that phone, have a little contract with your children. Have a little agreement that, guess what? You don't get to have a password on your phone, and I'm going to check your search history every night. And if you've erased your search history, you lose. You lose your phone for a while. So you got to set the expectations and follow through. And that way we will be able to protect what comes into our children's brains and help them to have the self-esteem they need to make better choices.
Obviously, our message is prevention, so preventing children from going through the trauma of abuse and neglect in the first place. I know I've been here in the past, and several of you have asked, well, so what can I say to maybe another family in the community? This is something that you could pick up. It sounds like things are really hard for you guys right now. I know right here in Stayton, there is support for families with young children, especially when parenting in life can get so overwhelming. Or, I know this organization called Family Building Blocks. They're here on 3rd Street. They have amazing home visitors who offer parenting support and even bring in activities to your home that you can do with your baby or your toddlers. There are also other agencies out here. I don't know if a lot of people know this. We serve families under 5. Shangri-La will come out here, offer home visits to families with any age of children. So it's very important to realize that just because our work stops at age 5, because we are really focused on making sure that children are ready for kindergarten and successful, there are other agencies like Shangri-La, Friends of the Family, Options Counseling. They all want parents to truly learn how to delight in their children. And there's one more slide, right? So the thing that I want you guys to walk away with is to join us in showing your support by wearing a blue ribbon throughout the month of April to signify that you support Child Abuse Prevention Month. Look over tip sheets in the back. We have tip sheets for faith communities, for parents, different tip sheets in the back that have great ideas of how to help prevent abuse and neglect. And consider what just you as a resident, you as a parent, you as a city councilman, what will you do to help prevent abuse and neglect in our community? Thank you for having us, especially the Chief of Police. And now I'd like to invite you to read the proclamation if you want to declare April as Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Can I just make one more? So everybody has a copy of this little handout, and we invite you to make copies and to encourage people to fill it out, put it up at your place of business or your home. This is what you'll do during the month of April to help prevent child abuse.
Could I ask a quick question? What are your folks' relationship with DHS with regard to foster kids? Because I read stuff way too often about caseworkers dropping the ball, people told about abuse in a foster home, and DHS not following through. Where do you guys and gals fit into this?
That is a great question. Our agency, Liberty House, is part of what we call a multidisciplinary intervention approach. The state of Oregon has laws that I'll just summarize that basically say investigating allegations of child abuse is very complicated. So the agencies that are charged with doing that, DHS and law enforcement, work together with your local child abuse assessment program, which is what Liberty House is. And that will help. The more that we work together, the more we can help each other problem solve. I don't know all the particulars, and I can't really comment on what DHS does or doesn't do. We do work collaboratively with them. We do try. I can tell you that there are many situations that get reported and that they get called into responding to that are very complicated. And so that's why I think in the state we do have good public policy. And that's why we appreciate your police chief so much, because the way he runs his department and his investigators and detectives, they're very conscientious, and that helps all of us work together. And so that's one way to help DHS be more effective. Nobody wants to see children going into foster care if it can be avoided. And at the same time, there are just some really high-risk situations that children find themselves in. And so we want that system to work effectively. It's hard.
Yeah, take a look at the Oregonian every morning, and
Yeah.
you get to see some of these stories. Yeah. Anyway, okay, thanks, ladies. I'm going to read that proclamation. And we'll get on with it here. City of Stayton, Marion County, Oregon. Proclamation. This matter comes before the City of Stayton Mayor and Council at its regularly scheduled meeting of April 4th, 2016 to prevent April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas every child deserves to live in a safe, loving, and caring family environment, whereas in 2015 there were 270 child abuse cases filed with the Marion County District Attorney's Office, of which 7 had resulted in death. Of these reported cases, 18 were from Stayton. Whereas we endeavor to join together as individuals, organizations, and government agencies to prevent child abuse in our county by providing opportunities to educate, train, and support caregivers by raising awareness of relevant topics, including child development, basic care skills, discipline strategies, and goal setting for parents, and whereas by strengthening families and providing safe, stable, and nurturing environments that are free from violence, abuse, and neglect, opportunities are created for children's optimal growth and success, ensuring a secure future for our communities where the needs of children are a priority and the needs of families are met. Now, therefore, the City of Stayton Mayor and councilors ask everyone to join together in protecting our children, and do hereby proclaim April 2016 as Child Abuse Prevention Month, dated at Stayton, Oregon, this 4th day of April 2016, over my signature, Henry Porter, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. There are more things to read, but not by me. Stayton Police Department Reserve Recruitment Video. Lieutenant D.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The chief's going to have to set up the video here, but I'm here tonight to show you guys our new recruitment video. It's for reserve officers. As you guys know, the reserve officers are kind of the foundation of our department. We train these officers to go on to have careers in law enforcement, some of them here, some of them in other places. Right now our numbers are lower than we'd like them to be. I think we have 4 to 5 reserves. So over the next 3 or 4 months, we're going to be recruiting, and we're going to use this video to help recruit. We have the video on social media, and we also plan on going to agencies that have cadet programs and trying to recruit those cadets who age out of their program and are looking for the next step in law enforcement, which would be a reserve program. This video was really fun to shoot. We spent only about 2 weeks doing it, and that was maybe a couple hours one day and an hour here and there during the next couple weeks. Most of the video was shot using.
Ken, you want to hit the lights?
Most of the video was shot using an iPhone. So I thought it turned out pretty good considering it was iPhone was used. There was a couple shots where we used a drone, and you'll see those. Well, that's it.
Hi, my name is Officer McGaley with the Stayton Police Department, and I am a reserve. I do this because I want a career in law enforcement.
Hey, my name's Brennan Rathley-Ligershey, and I'm a police officer with the city of Stayton, and I started as a reserve. Because I like a variety, and every day is different.
My name is Charles Button. I'm a lieutenant with the Stayton Police Department. We are looking for people who are going to be passionate about this job and who are going to be relevant to our community.
My name is Rich Stevens, Chief of Police. Welcome to the city of Stayton. We look forward to you joining the team.
Well, that's bright.
Lieutenant, what happens if someone, a youngster from Albany, Lebanon, Corvallis, come up here and want to be a Stayton Reserve?
We've already done it. We've hired them. So
Okay.
we have one reserve who was a cadet with the Corvallis Police Department. He lives in Albany, and he timed out. And when I mean time out, when he turned 21, you can't be a cadet anymore. And they didn't have a reserve program with Corvallis, so there was no longer a spot for him in Corvallis. He received 3-4 years of training, and we brought him up here, and he's now a reserve with us. We have another officer a reserve officer from Albany, and he timed out of the Albany program. Brandon Rathley-Ligershey, he was a cadet with Salem and timed out of their program. And I actually took a phone call today from one of our previous reserves that we hired from Salem, who's looking at coming back, and we're going to meet tomorrow to see if we can get him back on board. So it's pretty frequent we hire people from, Albany or Salem.
What, do we know, we have an idea what it costs us to, a year for a reserve? I mean, what's the department cost on that?
I don't have a breakdown
cities-
for you.
I mean, it's unpaid, isn't it?
No, oh, yeah, so the actual pay of the reserve, yes,
Yeah.
is unpaid. As far as like, background checks and that kind of stuff to get them on board.
Uniforms, yeah.
I don't have a breakdown of that.
Okay.
But yeah, their actual time spent out here, they're required to do 20 hours a month.
Okay.
Many of them exceed that by lots of hours. There's a few reserves that probably put somewhere between 60 and 80 hours a month in
Wow.
on their own time, volunteering.
Okay. Chief?
It costs a brand new reserve out of their own pocket, usually about $1,000, and that includes their reserve academy and the equipment that they purchase that they need for the job.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for. Counselors, any other questions for our fine PD people? Great presentation. Okay,
Any
thank
thoughts
you.
on the video?
LT, I'm good,
All right, thank you.
yeah. Okay, let's go to comments from the public. Janine? Is it Manny? Noise from industrial park. Janine, is she back there somewhere? Janie? 1539 West
Yeah.
Brett Court, yeah. Yeah, if you have a name close to that, come and talk to us.
I want to thank those of you who came to see what my problem is. Mr. Mayor, you yourself said it's a very uncomfortable place to be. My health is getting worse by the day. And from what you told me earlier this evening, they're lying to you about those bag houses for the dust suppression system. Those were put up last fall. Those have not always been there. My house shakes, I shake, my ears ring. For almost 50 years, I kept rheumatoid arthritis at bay by vigorous activity. Every day, I'm on pain pills now because it's come back, because I can't do anything. They say stress kills, and I can feel it. I'd appreciate it if you could make them stop.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there will be more visits too. But it's not something that can be fixed yesterday. And we're going to continue to work on it. Okay.
Come and tell us what they tell you. I've
Yeah.
got pictures of that place. I just had my house appraised a little over a year ago, and the appraiser took pictures back there. I've got proof that somebody else took pictures that stuff wasn't there.
Can
Okay.
you come to the microphone if you're gonna? Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Reese? Bordeaux.
I reviewed what I found online from the city about the meeting tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock here. And I have one question tonight, and that is why isn't Leonie Reeves, the attorney from Portland, who conducted interviews and generated a report, attending the special session of inquiry? It does say in the flyer that Aiken Blitz and David Roten will be attending. As a community member and as a person who's followed this, I don't understand why our city attorney is paid, why Aiken Blitz is being paid, and why Leonie Reeves, who did the interview with the 18 people, would not be here to answer your questions if you're reviewing the report that she generated.
Somebody want to take that? I don't have an answer for that.
I can try. I don't have a specific answer for you, but I can definitely get one. I know that she wrote the report, is not necessarily offering recommendations or suggestions. I'm not 100% sure that she's not going to be there, but I can get an answer for you. I just have to ask. I'm kind of the go-between of everything. And was an updated agenda put out this afternoon. It was emailed out via email. That's the council just received this evening also.
So what does the updated agenda change from what was put out? And doesn't it have to be put out so many hours before a meeting happens?
It was revised. One of the parties of the inquiry requested that it be an executive session.
Which means that it is something you will do in private. It's not open to the public.
At this time, the meeting will convene in an open session,
Okay.
and it will be up to the council whether they choose to go into executive session or not to discuss the report.
Okay. So I guess based on that new information, which I hadn't seen, and the fact that we have one city councilor that is in Ireland and not here for another week, and the fact that really whether Leonie Reeves comes or not, I believe, should be paramount to you. I would suggest that you postpone this until you have another city councilor here and until you have Leonie Reeves, who has the most information of all, present. I completely do not understand why you wouldn't want that. If she did the report, why are we paying Aiken Blitz and David Roten to say, just as you did in a way, I don't know? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reese. Yeah. I know part of it's a bunch of conflicting schedules. Some of the participants in this are, yeah, however you want to see it, participants, whatever. We're not going to be able to be here for the next couple of weeks. I empathize with our worthy counselor globetrotting and examining the future of budget blinds in Ireland, but we didn't think we could put it off for another 2 weeks to a month. So I'm going to get through this. So tomorrow we're going to do something. Anything else? Let's go to the agenda then. Consent agenda is from March 21st of this year. City Council minutes. What would you folks like to do with those?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
We'll offer a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to accept the council minutes of March 21st this year as presented. Everyone's had a chance to look at those. Let's go to a vote on that. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, same sign. Hearing none, we'll declare that motion passed. And we'll go to, I don't know, I guess it's a public hearing. More stuff I have to read, but that's all right. So, here we go. I need this. Then I need the thing I'm supposed to read. Need to get organized here. Okay. Good evening. My name is Hank Porter. As mayor, I will be presiding over this hearing. This is the time and place set for the public hearing in the matter of land use file 5-03-16, an application for a two-lot partitioning at 681 West High Street. The property is zoned low-density residential. The hearing is now open. Oregon land use law requires a statement to be made to those in attendance that covers certain matters relative to this case. That statement, with all the information required to be presented under ORS 197.763 bracket 5, is printed and available at the back counter. If you have not yet received one of these forms, you should go get one and review it prior to presenting your testimony. If anyone has any questions regarding anything on the statement or objects to it not being read out loud, please raise these questions when it comes your turn to speak during the hearing. Also at the back counter is the agenda for this evening's meeting, which lays out the order in which people will be called on to speak during the public hearings, the city's council rules of procedure for land use public hearings, and a brochure written to facilitate your participation in the public hearing. You are encouraged to obtain and read a copy of these documents as well. At this time, I'd ask the audience if there are any objections to the notice that was sent in this case. And I hear none. To the jurisdiction of this body to hear and consider this case. Hear none. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest, ex parte contact, or bias by any members of this body? I hear none. We are ready for the staff introduction. Mr. Fleischman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is an unusual proceeding in that usually this type of hearing and application is presented to the Planning Commission. However, at the time the application was submitted, it was not clear when I would have a full Planning Commission so that a quorum could be scheduled. And so therefore, scheduled it to be heard by you. This, usually you are acting in a legislative capacity, formulating policy. This evening you are acting in a quasi-judicial capacity, judging whether the applicant has met his burden of proof as to whether the application meets the criteria or not. As was mentioned in the opening statement from the mayor, this is an application for a relatively simple 2-lot partitioning of an existing parcel in the low-density residential zone. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant to present their application, and then I'll be back to go through my staff report and the recommendations from staff.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Ty Moore with Homes Handcrafted, and we purchased the property at 681 West High Street, and at this time it has a pretty derelict house on it that has been issues in the past, so we're gonna we've donated that to the fire department for a learn to burn for next month, and our plans are, if we can work it out, is to split it into 2 parcels, and so we can put 2 new homes there. They're smaller homes, 1,350 square foot approximately, and one will have a flag lot or a flagpole to the back lot, and then one at the front, and we think it'll make the neighborhood look nicer, and hopefully it'll benefit other people around there. It's gonna take the rainwater that's going on the ground from the roof right now and put it into a drainage system that will be on site on the properties. But of course, we haven't decided what system we're gonna go with at this time, because we didn't know if this was all gonna happen yet. So when we'll decide on that system if everything goes through okay. So that's kind of the scope of what we are hoping to do, and I don't. If you had any other questions?
Okay, that's a good start. Mr. Fleischman, you're back on with a staff report?
I'm back on with the staff report.
Okay.
I've got one additional piece of information for you that was not included in the packet. In your packet is the application, the proposed preliminary drawing of the partitioning, a narrative from the applicant, the review memo from the city engineer, and a draft order that contains the staff recommendations for conditions of approval. What I've just passed out is the aerial photo highlighting the lot, because I realized that the partition map plan that was included in the packet didn't really give you much information about where we were, where it sits. So you can see what I've passed out has the lot highlighted in blue. It's a couple of 100 feet to the west of Evergreen on High Street. High Street is an unimproved street. It's just a gravel surface. At the frontage of this lot, there are no curb, gutter, or sidewalks. That's one of the issues that the staff is suggesting be addressed as conditions of approval. I got to put my glasses on now to see the staff report. There also are no public storm drainage facilities available to the development, and High Street has in it only a 2-inch diameter water pipe. Our standard minimum is an 8-inch diameter water main, and it's more than 250 feet to the nearest fire hydrant. So the recommendation from staff is that either the applicant be required to do a half-street improvement along the frontage of the street that would, or enter into an agreement for future financial participation in street improvements that would need to be recorded and binding on subsequent property owners. The other recommendation is that either a new hydrant be installed on an 8-inch water main, or that the homes be provided with fire protection sprinkler systems. And finally, that each home has a stormwater quality and quantity control facilities in accordance with the Public Works design standards. The draft order that you have in front of you has a number of conditions of approval along those lines, so that prior to the submit of a final plat for the partitioning, that either a street improvement plan for work in the existing right-of-way or an improvement deferral and non-remonstrance agreement, if the Public Works Director grants the deferral to the street improvements, that they submit a water system plan conforming to the Public Works standards, or record a document that will require that the houses be sprinkled. And if they are intending on using the existing sewer lateral from the existing home, that needs to be televised inspection to make sure that it's adequate, or a new lateral be installed. Also, there is a recommendation for a condition of approval that the final plat include a 10-foot wide public utility easement across the frontage. Usually in subdivisions with a 60-foot wide street right-of-way, we require a 10-foot public utility easement. Those are the two conditions for preparing the final plat. The other conditions of approval all address the development of the individual lots once the plat's recorded. So there is the requirement that they prepare a document that will require that each parcel have a separate 4-inch sewer service connected to the city sewer, that each parcel have a separate new water service, and that the application for building permits for both of the lots will include a stormwater management plan and meet the Public Works standards for stormwater quality and quantity, and that there be an erosion and sedimentation control plan. Other than that, the staff's findings and our recommendation to you is that you find that all of the other criteria that are applicable to partitionings have been met, and all of those findings are outlined in the draft order. So if you have any questions of me or the applicant, the next item on the agenda is your opportunity for questions.
Okay, so questions from the council. Thank you, Dan, at this time.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Brian, go ahead, please.
Dan, is High Street targeted at any point to replace that water line?
No.
Under the deal we were doing? No? That residence at 715, that building in the back, is that residence or is that just a garage?
I believe that is an accessory structure.
Okay.
It's not in the assessor's records as a second dwelling, let's put it that way.
That makes some homeowner happy. They don't know I'm here.
Right.
And the county doesn't take aerial pictures of areas, does it? Good.
So where is the fire hydrant in relation to the aerial photo? Do we know?
The nearest hydrant now, I believe, is at the corner of Evergreen and Ida.
Okay.
Other questions, please? Let me try it. Lance, Mr. Ledwick, where does High Street fit into our overall street improvement plan?
I apologize for that.
Well,
I couldn't give you that answer right now. I'd have to go back and look. There are hundreds of streets here, and where that ranks as far as it's a local road. So as you know, local roads rank fairly low on the reconstruction and overlay list. We typically prioritize between arterials, collectors, things that are used more by the general public. So our current rating system, I would imagine it's fairly low.
As an unimproved street, it would be the lowest priority.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to reevaluate that at a future date and put more emphasis on local roads, but currently that's where it sits, very low. on a priority list.
So for us to require curbs and sidewalks, big water lines and big sewer lines.
No, the water and sewer lines are one thing, but curbs, sidewalks are something that I could perhaps ask for, but curbs, you know, you're only talking, what's the width of the lot? 100 feet, 110 feet of half-street improvement pavement, and curbs would make absolutely no sense. It'd be a waste of money.
Okay. Gravel streets, the wave of the future. Maybe. Okay, I'm good. As good as I can get right now. Any more questions from the council? Okay, proponents' testimony. That's those in favor. Tranquility Investment, want to say anything else?
Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm Michael Woodhouse. Some of you know me. I was a former planning commissioner. We've done this type of project before, just not in the city of Stayton. We built a number of the homes that we're proposing to build, the 2 new homes that we're proposing to build on these 2 new lots. And we're going to clean up the neighborhood. Right now, that was a derelict building, residence that the police department is very familiar with. And we've had the electric removed, we've had the gas removed, we've pulled the sewer out, we've had it capped, the gas line is gone. We've turned it over to the fire department. They've done some training in the last month or so. They have stated that they're ready to burn the end of this month or the 1st of May, pending us getting the asbestos abatement done. In the living room, there's some 12 by 12 stick down tiles, about 150 square foot, that has asbestos in it. And so we're in the process of tomorrow applying for the permit at DEQ to have that removed by a professional company, and that takes about 10 days. And then we have to get a clean air certification, and then we'll turn it over to the fire department. I believe in talking to Public Works, we've come to the agreement that in lieu of putting in the fire hydrant, that we've talked to Jay at the fire department, and he's agreed that we can sprinkler both houses, which we've agreed upon, and that in lieu of doing street improvements, which really would make no sense, that we'd be glad to sign the agreement to participate in having our portion paid for by the new property owner if and whenever that the streets are improved. I don't think there's anything else that I talked to Public Works about the traffic study, and because it's going to produce only about 10 additional trips per day, and the lower end requirement is to have a traffic study would be 25 or more. I believe that's been waived. So other than that, we like I say, we've done projects here in Stayton. We developed over on East Santiam. We've developed over on Orchard Court. And we just got done with a similar project in East Salem, where we took pretty much the same type of idea, where we took a house that was pretty bad, and we bulldozed it down and hauled it off and did a lot split, and it just made all the difference in the neighborhood. The neighbors are thrilled to death with it. So we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents' testimony, anything? How about opponents? Okay. Government agencies? Dan, anything from any of the agencies? Any general testimony? Questions from the public? Questions from the council? One. Dan, what's our experience down the road with, telling new property owners that there's a street and sidewalk or street improvement remonstrance on their property? Do we have pretty good luck with that? Do the real estate people, they pretty good about that?
That is information that should be showing up in the title report.
Okay.
When someone is interested in purchasing a piece of property. That is the mechanism by which they should be informed
Okay.
that there is a deferment or non-remonstrance agreement that obligates them in the future.
In your experience, so in planning and development, have you had anyone come into the office and say they bought a place and didn't know that there was a remonstrance on it?
No, I have not had that experience. That
Okay.
doesn't mean that
Okay.
people don't know, but no one's
Okay.
come in after finding out,
So
going,
that-
how'd I get stuck with this?
Okay, yeah. That's maybe a small concern, but one nevertheless. Other questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Brian, go ahead, please.
Dan, the assumption that I have is that the current stormwater is being absorbed, right? Because there's no impervious
Correct.
surface there?
Or it sits in puddles. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, anything else? Okay, there an applicant summary at all? Does you folks need to say anything? All right. Dan, a staff summary?
I don't really have anything to add. In the staff report, you'll see that we provided you with a number of different options, particularly considering the general lack of testimony at the public hearing. Staff recommends you approve the application with conditions, drafting the order as presented to you.
Okay, so we'll close the hearing and go to council deliberation. Folks, what would you like to do with this one tonight?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ralph, go ahead.
I look at this and I say, boy, we probably should do this. This sounds like a good thing. I'm uneasy with the 2-inch water line. That seems, I don't know, there's something not right about that to me. The idea that the street's gonna be improved in 100 years when somebody decides to pave High Street, maybe. I don't know, it's, I want this. I think the neighbors probably want this. I know these two guys over here want this, but I don't know, it just seems mushy.
Well,
I'm not feeling really super good about this, and I guess when push comes to shove, I'll probably vote for this, but I guess I want it known that I'm uneasy with the way this is happening.
Well, these improvement remonstrances are all over town, especially, of course, especially in the older parts of town.
Yes.
Our neighborhood is full of them, and you know, you know, when are we going to improve these miles of street? How many miles, Lance?
Oh, I don't have that off the top of my head, Your Honor. I do not.
We have about
Miles.
34 lane miles. And
How many?
Is it 34?
I think it's about 34 lane miles, yeah.
34 miles. Becomes a maybe never thing, Ralph. But yeah, that's. I
Mr.
guess
Mayor.
We deal with these things one at a time, but it is frustrating. Yes.
I would
Yeah.
like to point direct to Ralph regarding the 2-inch water line. They will have to come in and prove that that 2-inch water line will work and meet our codes for fire service as well as quantity. It's not a done deal just because Jay at the fire department said it, he'd okay it. They've got to show it with engineering calculations, make sure that works.
Well, I was going to expand that question, Lance. So what's the difference in volume of water from a 2-inch line versus the 8-inch line?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I should, but I don't. It's quite significant,
Right.
though. It's more than 4 times, obviously.
And if the sprinklers in the house take care of that property itself, how do we provide fire service for the rest of the surrounding houses? With that nearest hydrant being
Over 250 feet away.
So I share your questions.
Yeah.
Lance, if, Mr. Ludwig, if we, I guess, dig into our water service improvement fund and decide to put a hydrant in that area.
There were some discussions regarding this project. In fact, we've had them with the applicants already about actually running a line down there. You know, our code allows for if you could provide fire service, you can do fire service as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a fire hydrant within 250 feet, that allows for that. That doesn't mean we like it. I'd much prefer to have a water line go down that road for everybody's sake, but our code currently allows for that.
Mm-hmm. If we were to put a hydrant down in High Street there, would that have to be on the city's ticket? I kind of know the answer to this, I think.
Well, no, we could condition them to do that. I mean, that's part of their development.
Well, but I wouldn't necessarily want to burden just this new applicant with all of that.
Trust me, it's the cost of doing business, but that's one of the things that we have to look at when we do this kind of infill lots. You know, where do we draw the line to make it feasible for our applicants to come into the city of Stayton and try to do good? You know, try to come in and you know, take one of these derelict homes, break it in two, and try to make a few dollars. If we condition and condition and condition and condition to meet all our, it's not profitable, they won't do it, so the home will sit there and they'll just, you know, be lived in and they'll just be derelict. So we have to kind of find a happy medium where we require these developers to do so they can make a few bucks and, you know, we get as much improvement in the ground as we possibly can. That's kind of where we're at with this property. You know, we built 250 feet of water line and a fire hydrant. You know, that's quite an undertaking, as well as sidewalks. It wouldn't pencil, I'm guessing, and so they'll go find another lot elsewhere, and then we'll have a lot that's derelict, or a house that's derelict sitting there still. It's a fine line, especially with these small onesie-twosie infill lots.
But on this one, where there's a whole neighborhood would benefit from that increased water service, right?
Excuse me, I didn't
The
hear
whole
you.
neighborhood would benefit from that increased water service.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a cost sharing with everyone?
That's obviously a possibility, yes. We're doing that all over town, trust me. We're doing that with...
Obviously
and
a possibility.
that's what the city used to do with local improvement districts.
Yeah, LIDs.
So
right.
if the council is interested in improving the service to this neighborhood by constructing the street and putting in a proper water line, then the creation of an LID and the appropriate cost sharing to all of the benefiting property owners would be the way to go.
We have to ask those folks if they'd like to take part in this.
Oh, yes.
You definitely do.
Doggone it.
And otherwise, you're placing the burden for providing those facilities on one property owner.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't want to do that, but, okay, well,
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
First, I'd like to say thank goodness we normally have a planning commission that handles all this kind of stuff, and that we found a couple people that'll serve on that commission going forward. I think this is the best we can do under the circumstances, and we should, well, I'd offer motion to approve the application with conditions, adopting the draft order as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second for option number 1, approving the application with conditions, adopting the draft order as presented. Council discussion. The motion is, I move the Stayton City Council approve the application of Tranquility Investments Limited Liability Corporation for preliminary plan approval of a 2-lot partitioning, land use number 5-03/16, and adopt the draft order presented by staff. Any other discussion? Let's go to a vote. Alyssa, would you poll the council on this one?
Of course. Counselor Quigley?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Counselor Esselman?
Yes.
Counselor Lewis?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, there's another thing. Where is it?
At the bottom
Oh,
of your.
there it is. There's a closing statement. The city council's decision may be appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals within 21 days of the notice of this decision in accordance with Oregon Revised Statute 197.830. And moving right along. Okay. There's no unfinished business. New business, none. I think I agree with Councilor Nagel that some of these things like this one are maybe better left to a planning commission where they can argue and fight and spend all night on something like this, and maybe they'd come up with the same thing. Do you suppose? Who knows?
They usually do.
Okay, no new business, staff commission reports, City of Stayton water quality update. Mr. Ludwig.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. You have an informational report that I prepared. I was asked to prepare regarding the drinking water safety and the quality here in the city. Just to summarize, you know, out in the news media now in the last 6 months, Flint, Michigan's been a big topic, their water quality. I think that's probably what spurred this action on here in the city. And I'd like to say the reason for that is where they are drawing their water from. It was a river, the Flint River, very caustic, very high pH water that they're drawing from, which the city was not treating appropriately. That water got into water lines, house service lines, which had lead in the joints and lead fixtures and so forth, which led to the lead in the inhabitants of Flint. And looking at the city's background here, we've been testing for lead and copper for the last 20 years. Working with the Oregon Health Authority, we started early 90s. We had 40 houses that we chose to test. Those were due to the ages of those homes and when they were built. They were more than likely the homes that had lead in the pipes. Our first test, we came back and we passed. A passing rate is a 90 percentile rate of the tests. Subsequent tests that we could not get above the 90% passing mark. So the Oregon Health Authority suggested that we build a soda ash plant for our water treatment plant. We did that, and since that time we've been passing with flying colors in the 90 percentile range. This last summer in 2015 we tested 20 homes. 17 of those homes passed with flying colors. The other 3 had a failing mark. We still passed the 90 percentile, so we were fine, but our personnel at the water treatment plant went out and met those 3 homes, went through the testing procedures, and that's the thing, it really comes down to testing procedures. The homeowners at the homes in question retested, and they all passed. So I'd like to say that our water here in Stayton is very good. We have a great source in the North Santiam River. We don't have caustic waters. We have very clean water, so I don't think we have much to worry about. But we are required to test for lead and copper every 3 years, and we do so. We have been doing for the last 20 years. And with that, I'll take any questions you have.
Just an observation, Lance. With that soda ash, the water tastes different than it used to, doesn't it?
We don't put much in it. Really, we don't need it. It comes out of the Santiam River with a pH of about 7.4, which is very neutral. By the time we go through our treatment process, that drops off a little bit. We add a little bit, so when the water goes out, it's about 7.4. So you're not tasting much at all. We don't put very much in. We don't want anything below 5 or we don't want anything below 6 going out, because then it starts getting more acidic. If you remember back to your high school chemistry, the more acidic, or the lower the pH, the more acidic the water is. We do not want to be sending water out into the community that is below a 6. So we try to keep it up above a 7.
Lance, do we have any numbers that suggest or tell us how many households use bottled water?
I have not. No, I don't have that survey.
If we, probably no need, there's really no complaints about water quality, is there? Are there? Excuse me.
I have not heard any.
Okay.
I think we have great water here.
Okay. I just wonder if we found out that 10%, 20%,
I think it tastes
30%
fine right out of the faucet here.
used
myself.
Used bottled water for drinking. I want to, would it tell us something or anything, or I don't know. Just a thought. Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Go ahead.
Lance, those 3 houses that failed initially,
Mm-hmm.
is that lead and copper testing reflective of the pipes that are bringing the water into the house?
Yeah, like I said, the water that we get from the North Santiam River is very clean.
Right.
Little copper, little lead. What causes the lead poisoning are the pipes that are in the individual homes. The fixtures, the soldering, that type of thing in these older homes. And that is what does it. So if you're sending water out to those homes that are low in pH or acidic, it leaches the lead out of those pipes.
Right.
So, yes. I think you hear informational ads regarding, don't take the water right when you turn the tap water on. Let it run a little bit. That's one of the things you want to do when you're taking samples as well.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Lance. Okay. Any more, other than mine, any more off-the-wall questions for Lance? What else can we do with water? Where's the copper come from?
Well, I imagine you probably have a little bit of natural, but I think probably the pipes, again.
Yeah, go look at the pools on the Little North Fork sometime. Drive way up there and look at those nice blue-green pools. That'll tell you where some of it's coming from.
Some of it is natural.
Yeah, oh yeah. Okay, presentations, comments from the public. Anything else this evening? Business from the city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing this evening.
Okay. Business from the chair. I've got an application for planning commission, so we can throw these land use things back on them. And it's for Mark Cronquist on.
Mr. Mayor.
We approved that last time.
We did that last time?
Yep.
Why is that still in here? I didn't remember that, but that's fine. Luckily, you folks have better memories. That's good. Or maybe Mark stopped you on the street and asked if you'd approved his application. Okay, business from the council, anything? Future agenda items, Monday for April 18th, that meeting is canceled. We get to go into May before we have to do this again.
Maybe.
So,
Question mark.
maybe,
Canceled, question mark.
maybe. When do we find out?
Soon. Staff will meet tomorrow and
Like-
we'll go over our agendas and make sure there's nothing that's pressing or needs to be
Yeah.
done.
Maybe by the 17th, we'll decide whether to, okay. Question mark on a canceled meeting, so we'll let it go. If there's nothing else, we're adjourned.